Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August OfficeAddins Developer Community Call. Just a few notes about the call as we get started. First of all, this is a monthly call that happens the second Wednesday of every month, which means next month's call will be on September 11th. And if you don't already have the recurring meeting invite, you can use this AKA MS link at the top of the slide to download the invite and add it to your calendar. This call, for those of you who may be the first time joining today, is a chance for you to meet the product teams, meet some of the folks on the OfficeAddins or Office Platform team that's building the OfficeAddins platform and the Office JavaScript APIs. A chance to learn about what's new and what's coming soon, and to learn more about specific subjects as we do technical deep dives. We've also been doing customer presentations, which is a great way for you to see kind of what others are doing in terms of building on the platform. We've got a really full agenda today. We have a handful of announcements. Alex will do the OfficeAddins overview for those of you who may be new to OfficeAddins. We're going to learn about what's new with the Excel JavaScript APIs. We're going to take a look at a new patterns in practice for offline storage in OfficeAddins. We'll talk about identifying an equivalent COM add-in within your Office add-in. And we'll also have a customer spotlight. Shaji is here with us from Oracle, and he's going to talk about a great add-in they've been building called SmartView. So a quick look at the presenters. I'm Kim Brandl. I'm a senior dev writer on the developer education team within the Office Platform Group. I'm here with my colleague Alex, and also in the room with us presenting today is Albert. He's a software engineer intern. Him and Nancy put together a great presentation about the patterns in practice we'll learn about today. We also have on the phone with us via Teams meeting, we have Raymond, Lillian, and Care, as well as Shaji, the Senior Director of Product Development from Oracle. So as we get started here today, as we always do, we'll have Alex do a quick run through of the OfficeAddins overview.
Hi, everyone. So just so we're on the same page, OfficeAddins are the modern way to extend Office functionality. So you can add web functionality to Outlook, Excel, or Word. And what an add-in is at a basic level is a web service, just a web app that's made up of JavaScript, HTML, CSS, just all the modern web technologies, and a manifest file. This manifest file is generated by our tooling, and it points your Office host to the add-in. So that manifest file gets loaded anywhere that Office loads, on the web, on desktop, on Mac. You can also upload it to the store so other people can discover your add-in. Now, OfficeAddins have the same capability as any web app. They can make web service calls out to Azure services or other web APIs. They can access data through the Microsoft Graph. We've recently put a lot of investment into our SSO and authentication story, so if you want to learn more about that, we'll have a link to our documentation in a little bit. But the focus on this call is primarily on the Office.js libraries. These are how your add-in will directly interact with an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, an Outlook message, etc. So we're going to focus on those APIs and those kind of behaviors that your add-in can take advantage of.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. So here's the link that Alex was mentioning a second ago, the AKA MS link that goes straight to the docs. As we go through the call, Alex will be pasting in these links from the slides into the chat window. So if you're interested in having any of the links right away, keep an eye on the chat window there. So next, just a really quick announcement, kind of a re-announcement, if you will, about the Microsoft Edge WebView control for Office add-ins. Those of you who have been regulars on the call know that a few months ago we announced that newer versions of Office 365 and Windows now use Microsoft Edge WebView instead of Internet Explorer. And I just wanted to call out for those who may not be aware, who may not have heard about this yet, or may not have had time to dig into this yet. There is a blog post, this AKA MS link below the slide on the right-hand side of the screen that talks in detail about which versions of Office 365 and Windows will use the new Web Edge View control, and also has specific guidance for you OfficeAddins developers in terms of making sure that your add-ins work both with the old web control and with the new Edge WebView control. So check that out if you haven't already checked it out. If you do notice any issues with your add-in running with the new Edge WebView control, please do log an issue for us. In the circle on the left-hand side of the screen, you see the link to our GitHub repo for Office.js. It's simply in the OfficeDev org, it's office-js. So please do log an issue for us so we can get to the bottom of that. And next, Alex is going to talk real briefly about a new docs feature for the API reference docs within the Office JavaScript APIs that allows you to filter your API reference docs by requirement set.
Cool. Yeah, so we heard this demand from the community that oftentimes your add-in will be targeting a particular requirement set or release. So, for example, if you're targeting Excel 2019, you'll only have the JavaScript APIs up to version 1.8. So it'd be nice if the reference docs would show you all that. So we added a feature that you can filter and see everything up to and including that requirement set, just so it makes it easier. You're not seeing code that you can't use yet or it won't target your particular customer base. So I'll go ahead and paste the link to that in the chat window. But yeah, check it out. Go see code samples and other API reference docs for the version you are coding for.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. And just to call out here, on the screen, as you're looking at the screenshots here, we have two screenshots, one on the left, one on the right. As you're looking at the reference docs, you're going to see this right above the search box, above the table of contents. You'll see the new toggle, the link that opens the drop-down box. And on the left-hand side, you see when you click on that, you'll get a drop-down box with all of the hosts listed and all of the requirement sets. So the way this works essentially is you pick which host and requirement set you're interested in, and then once you've selected one, the right-hand side here, the right-hand screenshot shows you once you've selected, in this case, Excel JavaScript API 1.9, everything below the line in that TOC in the API reference section will show you just the common APIs plus the API reference for whatever host and version you've selected. So in this case, it'll show you all of the Excel APIs that are in 1.9 and earlier. And so like Alex was saying, this is a great way if you're targeting, say, Excel 1.4, then before this feature was available, you would have to kind of mentally parse as you're looking at the API docs and make a note to ignore anything that says 1.5 or 1.6 or newer because you can't use that. Now you have ability to actually just filter so that when you're looking at the API reference docs, they literally only contain the information you're interested in. So super helpful. All right, next up we have Raymond here joining us from China really late there. Appreciate you joining us so late, Raymond. He's here to talk about what's new with the Excel JavaScript APIs.
Thank you, Kim. This is Raymond. I'm program manager of Excel API team. Today, I'm pretty honored to share what we're doing now. Just give you the update of the current API status. So right now I'm working on a cultural info API. If you are working as a .NET developer, you will understand what is the cultural info mean, and it is the class that we can use to get the system settings of the cultural information. Like what is Win32 is the original settings, formats. In SharePoint, you can get also the regions format, sort of the settings from this API. Okay, here's a scenario. And Angela, who is working in a multinational company, her headquarters is based in Germany, but she is from the US. Therefore, the setting for the SharePoint is German, but her laptop is in US. However, in the company, he's responsible for the budget planning and by planning add-in. So when it comes to have the date or number related work, we found that there's some inconsistent format. Therefore, when she opened from his work online or working from the Windows, the format are different. So here in this case, that case 3, 1, 2, and 3, you can see that the decimal for 1 column H is dot, but for the 2 and 3, we can see that the decimal is comma. So that is make a very confusion. So after we release the cultural info API, and Angela can see the consistent number of formats. Okay, here's a different behavior when regional settings are different. In majority country, like US and China, we that is using dot as a decimal, a comma as a group setting, a group simple. For German and many countries in European, using the comma as a decimal. And some of the country like Switzerland and Portugal are using different kind of group settings group separators. And like a Hindi, they are using another kind of rules to do their grouping. So all these kind of behavior can be get from our cultural info API. Here, in order to get that, we have built a few APIs to enable you to get the current setting of our current system setting. You could use cultural info under the number format. You can get the current decimal separator and group separator. In the first wave, we support the cultural name, the original setting name, and including the decimal separator and the group separator. And in next stage, we will work on the date-related information like date separator, time separator, long day, short day, something like that. This will be the wave 2. Okay, for the next page, I would like to give you a example. Okay, here is an example. If you like what I show you in column B, you could see that this is in German style, but in column H and column G, which is the US style. So I just want to give this as a sample, and and we can use our API to quickly detect what's the current system settings, and then you could do the change by yourself. Okay, so please play this video. Okay, it's column B and column H, the difference of the decimal settings. So if you click, this is the cultural information and whether it's using system separator or not. And then if you pay a lot more attention on B, then it is changed to now this is the right format as what we will get. This is the last page is for the Windows on Excel Online, but not this one is the Win32. It's the same. Would you please play this video as well? Yeah, you can get the cultural name and what's the current separator, what's the current setting of the decimal and thousand separator. You can see that the after they change it, the correct settings, the correct decimal settings. And this API will support like what I demo is Win32 and Mac online, as well as the Mac, yeah, and iOS. Okay, that is what we are working on. And besides that, we have targeting the 1.1 GA, about 150 APIs will be announced in this Ignite. And moreover, we are working on the development for like a cultural info and on-calc events, rearrange table column. These are the API are we will target to have a beta preview version in Ignite. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks, Raymond. Lots of good work happening on the Excel side. It's exciting to hear all that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So next up, we have Albert here. Like I mentioned earlier, he's an intern here with us this summer, and him and his colleague Nancy put together this patterns in practice to show you how you can enable functionality with your Office add-in even when the user's offline. So Albert, I'll let you go ahead and share your screen if you like.
Yeah. So hello everyone, my name is Albert. I'm a software engineering intern here, and today I'll be showing you how you can use offline storage to enable your add-ins. So here there's a short video that Nancy put together to show how the current situation of trying to use an add-in offline is. So what she's trying to do is she's trying to look up the word offline using the English dictionary add-in. It works now because she's currently online. However, when she goes offline in a couple of seconds, give it a moment. Now she's offline. Now, even though she's looked it up before and she tries to load it again, it will say that she can't load it because the information was not saved. So our proposition to fix this is to have developers using local storage. So the reason why we're using local storage is because it can save short form text data, and it can be saved across your domain. So if you have an add-in that works on several platforms, you can have that information stored across all the platforms, and it will save even if the user closes the browser. So if they bring it up next time, they can have it to load. So now I'll show you a quick demo of what we have on the PnP GitHub page under the offline storage add-in. So if I can pull that up. Great. So here we have the add-in that you could find on the GitHub page loaded up. And so in the middle of the screen, you can see the add-in. And on the right side of the screen here, you can see the data that's already been stored into local storage. And so I'm currently offline within my browser. So even though I am offline, I can easily hit Create Table and create a table from the information from the local storage instead of having to go back online. So that way the user doesn't have to be online to get previously accessed information. Yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. Thanks, Albert. So encourage all of you, anybody who hasn't been out to the Patterns and Practices repo yet, I'm going to share my screen here 1 second. So any of you who haven't been to the Patterns and Practices repo yet, definitely go check that out. This is just one of several patterns and practices that are currently out there, and we'll be adding more in the days ahead. This is a great way using local storage like Albert just showed to enable at least partial functionality, usability for your add-in when the user's offline, and look forward to hearing your feedback about that. If you have any issues or feature requests, etc., feel free to log an issue in this repo and we'll respond to you there. So next up we have Lillian's joining us here today to talk about how to specify an equivalent COM add-in for your Office web add-in. So Lillian, go ahead and share your screen if you like.
Awesome, cool. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Lillian. I'm a program manager on the team. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the Conduit Bridge. So essentially what this is if you have a COM add-in in addition to your web add-in, one of the common scenarios I've heard from the community, from you guys, is that, hey, my COM add-in, I still want to preserve the functionality of that on Windows. And one of the reasons might be because it just has greater feature depth or your users are used to it. However, I'm building my web add-in because I want that cross-platform benefit. So I want to be able to use that on, I want my users to do that on Mac or online. And before, there really wasn't a good way for you to do this. You can kind of get around it. You can hack the ribbon through the COM side, but now we've enabled this feature where you can do this pretty seamlessly. And this feature is called the Conduit Bridge. So I'll run through that really quickly, and then I'll give you guys a quick demo. It rolled out originally for Excel, and we've also added compatibility with custom functions. But this we've recently rolled it out to Word and PowerPoint, so it'll work there as well. What it essentially does, so I'll skip to what happens, and then we can go back to the manifest side. So what it essentially does is when you load one of the hosts on Windows, if you specified, if you opted into this mode, your users will see your COM add-in if it is installed. Otherwise, they will see your web add-in. So what that means is that on Windows, if your user has your COM add-in, it would automatically default to that. However, they will see your web add-in if it is installed online or on Mac. So the way to opt in is very straightforward. It's an additional declaration in your manifest. We essentially need the prog ID for your COM add-in, and you essentially tag your web add-in as being compatible, or that it's an equivalent add-in, and then we will detect that on install or file open, and we will default to that if it is available. So you see on the right here, you'll notice the type. So we have type COM and type XLL. So the XLL side is for custom functions. So this is only going to be for on Excel. So in this way, you can save your worksheet in like an interrupt mode, and your custom functions would also work. On Word and PowerPoint, you will only need to specify the type com, and what it will do is it will just suppress the ribbon UI on those hosts. Oh, nice transition. Okay, so let me demo that really quick.
Hey, Lillian, as you're bringing up the demo there, we had a question in the IM chat. Do you know if there's any plans to enable this feature for Outlook as well in the future?
Outlook is looking at something similar. We don't have a clear timeline at the moment, but it is something we're thinking about.
Great, thanks.
Cool. So here I have, so I'm going to demo this with Solver. So this is already out in production, so you can go and try it today if you're on the right builds. So essentially what I have here is I have a business forecast spreadsheet. On the web, I am using the web add-in. So this is the web version. And what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to run the simulation, and it just works as normal. Okay, so you'll notice that all the values, we ran a simulation and it's given me some numbers. So for example, if your user is using the web add-in, but on Windows, on desktop, I have the COM and I want to be able to use that. You'll notice what happens if so I have both the web add-in and the COM add-in installed on this machine. So you'll see in web, obviously, we only have the web add-in here, but you'll notice that when I open on desktop, okay, so you notice that here, I also have the Analytics Solver add-in, but this is actually their COM add-in. So it's gone ahead and defaulted over to the COM add-in once I load it up in desktop. So you notice that the UI on the ribbon is slightly different. And when I run it, it's going to be running on the COM add-in instead. So we've kind of handled the seamless transition between the two add-ins. So in this mode, your users can use kind of the COM on Windows and then your web add-in on Mac and online. So we've also built in some safety nets for edge cases. So for example, if I already have the COM add-in installed and for some reason I try to get the web add-in, I try and add it. What you'll notice here is that instead of downloading the web add-in or showing the web add-in, what we do instead is we will point the users back to the COM add-in. And this will be the case through other installation flows as well. So that'll be the case if you get from AppSource and through centralized deployment. What we have is that if you're in this mode, we will always point you to the COM if it's available. And then what you'll notice is that I'm going to go ahead and remove the COM add-in. So I'm going to unregister it. And then what you'll notice is that when I reboot Excel, so you'll notice that because I've unregistered that COM add-in, what's happened is on boot, we have defaulted over to the web add-in. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there. And we check for the presence of your COM add-in through registry keys. And then I can, if you guys want more info on that, I can put that in the chat on the specific keys that we look for. Yeah, that was the demo.
Terrific. Thanks, Lillian.
Yeah, no
A really
worries.
cool way for add-ins developers to, let your users take advantage of the really feature-rich COM add-in that you may already have when they're working on Windows desktop, but also enable, greater use of your add-in by having a web version that runs on the other platforms. So a really cool feature and pretty easy to implement from the manifest configuration standpoint. So thanks, Lillian. Appreciate the demo. That was really great.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, next up, Kare is joining us to talk a little bit about some Excel customer research that he's planning to do and hopefully get establish some connections with some of you. Kare?
Hey, thank you, Kim. So my name's Kare. I work on our Excel developer platform, and there are two scenarios I was actually interested in and getting your feedback on. So one is if there are partners who are building add-ins for internal use, we often refer to these as line of business solutions, whether that's a COM add-in or a web add-in. We'd love to chat and learn more specifically about the types of scenarios that you're building these add-ins for. Likewise, one of the top user voice items, at least on the Excel side, has been Python support, having that natively built inside of Excel. And we're starting some customer investigations on that front. So if you have scenarios that span across Python, Jupyter, and want to use those, or you do use those inside of Excel, I would love to chat. Just to contact me, just my email's out there. Please do so by end of week. I'd like to get most calls set up early next week if possible, but yeah, let me know and would love to chat. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kare. Yeah, definitely reach out to Kare if you're interested in either of these two scenarios. It's super valuable for us as a product development team to have real world input and understand what you all really need in order for us to design something that's really useful. So I highly encourage you to reach out to Kare at the email address here if you're interested in either of these scenarios. All right, cool. So now we're up to my favorite time of the call. It's a customer spotlight time. So Shaji is joining us today from Oracle. He's here to talk about a great add-in that they're working on, they've had for some time, and now are building a web version of called SmartView. So Shaji, I'll let you go ahead and share your screen now and take it away.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, my name is Shaji, and I'm in the SmartView development team at Oracle. And what really SmartView is, it's an add-in across Office, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook that is bringing in data from different sources. And these data, it's used both for analysis as well as reporting. We also have components that people use, Office documents, to file into 10K, 10Q kind of reports to SEC. And the data sources, what I'm talking about here, are multidimensional data, and our multidimensional engine is called Essbase. We have enterprise performance management, which comprises planning and budgeting application, consolidation, tax reporting, profitability and cost management, etc. So it can bring in data from all these different sources. And also we have general ledger, where people are using data to see the general ledger as well as analyze data that is gone into it, in an aggregated way. So today I'll be demoing part of that. Then I will also be covering the web add-in part of why we are moving to web add-in and advantage of that, as well as what how much we have covered and wanted to demo that part as well. So a bit of a history around here. Oracle, as well as from a history here is that we have been in the add-in for quite some time, team for quite some time. Excel add-in that for for one of our multidimensional database called Essbase was written back in the 90s, and that is one among the first add-in to be written on using Excel for macros, etc. on the first version of whenever add-in was supported. It's called the Essbase spreadsheet add-in, and that's the only front end for our multidimensional database, and it continues to be that way. People enter data through it, retrieve data through that. It's called the Essbase spreadsheet add-in. And the product by itself is called Essbase Extended Spreadsheet Services, Essbase. Here, when you talk about database, people typically talk about either SQL, writing a SQL, or MDX, or things like that. It's like a query language. But this particular add-in has taken that complexity out from writing a code or a script and made Excel as the querying tool. That's what I'll be demoing. We do support VBA to automate business process, as well as to testing and deployment, etc. That's the first version of the add-in. Then we moved on to SmartView. We started SmartView in 2004. I've been associated with the team since the inception in 2004. It's a single COM add-in across all Office application, supports many providers I talked about. SmartView also supports extensions because it's supporting many providers, many functionality. Only certain components may be applicable to certain set of users. For example, a planner may not need a consolidation application to be available at that particular point of time. So they can pick and choose the module what they want to load. So it acts as an extension. It's the same add-in that work across our on-prem sources as well as cloud. And we expose around more than 300 plus VBA to automate and automate business process. So we have been working with Microsoft, and now when the web add-in concept came in, then we were the first one to jump on it to understand that this has tremendous value because it supports across platform, and a whole lot of users were asking us for a version on Mac and support for browser, etc. The end goal for us is that we wanted to implement all functionality, entire functionality in parity with the COM add-in and make it available through web add-in. So this is just a picture of different sources coming into Excel. We have enterprise planning data coming into Office. It could be Excel, Word, or PowerPoint. Financial consolidation. You have multidimensional data coming in. Profitability, cost management, tax reporting, ERP cloud, etc. So who are our real users? So we have different sets of users actually. One is that people who are in a data entry area, they might be entering their planning and budgeting numbers. There could be business analysts sitting in and wanted to look at their data, analyze their data, and see that how my quarters are, last quarter the performance was this much, and this year it actually improved. Then how did that happen, or how did it go down? That level of analysis. Next one is the reporting, where you generated a report, you have a dashboard, you generated a report, you want to send it across to people. So SmartView can be used for that, for report bursting. We also support what we call it as a narrative reporting, where you have your numbers coming in, your P&L report coming in. People can comment on it, saying that, yeah, these numbers, you have not incorporated this part of it, or these numbers don't add up. This rounding is not correct, and things like that. And you can put a process around it. So with the narrative reporting, what you can do is that you can agree on building a report You can put a process around approving it, signing off on a report. Then you can also add the business tagging, or it's called XBRL, extended business reporting, actually, XBRL. This XBRL language, this XBRL is required anytime you are sending a document to SEC or any of the regulatory agencies. We also can bring in data from business intelligence. We covered that part. Or eBiz to manage and see, for example, like you wanted to see value of certain component increased by 5%. How is it going to affect your profit, or how much you should actually spend on other areas, and how to cut it, cut certain areas and things like that, actually, for doing that level of analysis. So why web adding? And this is like most of our users are in the finance world, and finance folks really love Excel. And second part of that is there are a lot of the servers out there, applications out there, and these applications may not be able to capture the business completely. For example, like you wanted to give certain promotions for North America for a certain product. It may not be the same percentage that you wanted to give it for a South America or Europe. Now your application is sitting in a central location, maybe in North America. Now you wanted to fine tune it, and typically people use Excel and formula to do that fine tuning of that. Then you can also do that's one of the powerful use of using Excel and add-in on top of it. Then you can have VBAs that customize it. For example, like I'm in a planning process and I want the planning process to follow certain stages. The first is going to be data collection. Second is going to be I want to churn the data and see that, okay, there are some gaps in it. These are variants coming in and things like that. You can actually script whatever your operations you want using VBAs. Then moving on to why the web add-in part of it, COM add-in is sufficient up to here, but why the web add-in? One, recently at least, a lot of folks have been getting laptops, and people have a choice of whether to go for the laptop or go for a Mac, or people have even been using iPad. For example, there's a floor manager or a receptionist at a hotel chain wanted to update some of their nightly rate or whatever. So they might be using an iPad. So, and you wanted to enter some data directly from there. So far, it has been that you provide always, you need to have a Windows machine and with the Office installed on top of it. Now that web add-in is supported across all this, we wanted to be in that so that our users do not have to switch back and forth between this. Other part of that is there are C staff, where it's CFO, etc. Your finance person may be on a Excel on a Windows machine. They might want to send a document to the for the higher authority to get it approved. So you don't want them to have a complete full set of Windows and other machines in there. You might be on a Mac. They just want to do a quick analysis and things like that. Web add-ins make that possible. Then another part of that, it's a deployment. Deployment two levels. One is that there are tons of documents sitting around here with the finance person's laptop. That is a security risk. Now IT hates that, so they want it to be in a central location. They don't want to be in a C drive, D drive, or in a network drive even. And another part of that is that deployment is a headache. Like, when you are deploying a COM add-in, that becomes a major headache for an IT person to go help a finance person or a planner, etc. If there's a deployment did not go well, things like that. So all these problems get solved by web add-in, and we decided to make use of that right away. And a couple of areas. So when you are actually moving from a Windows add-in to web add-in, there are things that one need to be worried about, or one cannot actually expect. Web add-in works across platforms, so you can't expect a Windows registry to be there. So you need to find an alternate way to do that. Next is that how did we solve it? We started using the local storage instead of registry. This work across different platforms and even on the web. Then use add-in commands instead of Windows events. For example, within our add-in, we do heavily depend on double clicks and other type of events. So we need to consider add-in commands and program that according to that. Then another one is that if you have business logic that is sitting on your COM add-in, you need to move it over to the server so that it can be shared between that. That anyway will be much better way to create and manage your applications. The last one may be specific to our use case where we have different types of application and different type of servers providing this application. So having one manifest file deployed onto a store may not work well for us. So what we have went ahead and created a manifest file creation application. So that I'll try to demo today. And deployed using central deployment. A few challenges what we ran into. One is that web add-in, pretty much most of you would know, it's an async programming model. So COM add-in, you can actually expect things in a sequential order, but in web add-in, it's all async, and that gets a little bit of a challenging. For example, like you are doing a paste into a region, for example, you selected a grid region and pasted into another. So you might get multiple events in a certain order. You may not actually expect the range to be in the way that you expect it, things like that. First cell selection might come, then the remaining paste will be coming in, etc. So we need to account for those type of differences. Next one is that if you have invested quite a bit in the web UI, in the Windows UI, then you need to plan to rewrite into the web UI. This is another big item for us, is that Windows events, like any of the WM, mouse click, double click, and things like that are not available. So you need to find alternative ways of doing that, actually. Then the next item, we are actually working with the Microsoft team to get it solved. Basically, sometimes your command surface is not sharing data with your task pane or in the Excel runtime. So this has been an issue, and the solution is in the roadmap for Office. Also, if you or the customers have tons of scripts using VBA, you may not be able to use them. So you got to plan for an alternate path for them. And what has been helpful for us, actually, so one is that the URL what we provided here, developer.microsoft.com/office. So I would recommend you bookmark this one. The script labs has been greatly helpful for us. Then we have been working closely with the product management team, and they were extremely helpful, guiding us, providing us the right information and the right sample code, etc. And OfficeGet, there are tons of samples available in the OfficeGet, and Stack Overflow also has been very helpful for us. So next is what I'm going to do is that I'll give you an architecture overview of what things are for us. So like I mentioned, we have all these add-ins, add-in that is working across all these different components. Now we have our backend systems like financial consolidation over here, planning and budgeting cloud service, enterprise reporting cloud service, etc. So previously these services were had interface was to return XML. So what we have written is a module from the front that does the translation, and it also captures the business logic that otherwise used to run at the COM add-in side. So it does JSON JavaScript translation as well as a bit of a business logic. Both of them are captured at the server side, keeping your add-in part very light. A couple of things to factor in here are you need to be you might have a Windows machine which is okay, Mac is okay, but the moment you're talking about low power devices like an iPad or maybe whenever you're starting to support iPhone or something else, then you cannot expect these devices to have that much of a computing power. So you might want to push as much of a heavy lifting onto the server. So next what I'm going to do is that I'll actually do a demo of our COM add-in first, then I'll actually switch over to the web add-in, and we'll draw the parallel in them. So in the COM add-in, when you are connecting to our system, you will actually be given a choice of different applications that you can choose. I have Essbase, financial management, planning application, and reporting, etc. I'm going to choose Essbase. So I'm going to use my sample basic application. Like I mentioned, this is the querying tool for the database. So what we have, we have been careful, or we have put tremendous effort, is to blend this very well with the native Office actions as well as the UI. So for a user to go find out the detail of how my product worked across different, different time frame, right? For example, like I'm in different quarters, how did it perform? And I can actually have different measures of that, saying that how much is my sales and cost of goods. And I can do that across different sets of products. All these are done by just simple double click operation. I wanted to see how did different markets perform, right? I want to see how did it do well in New York for January. Then I can select a set of values and I can actually go and do a focus on it and say keep that only. I can actually change them across and say, okay, wanted to have it on the row dimension and look in a different angle. And second one I wanted to show is that we can also, you're doing analysis, now you wanted to update some value saying that, these numbers have increased, I'm a data entry operator and I want to submit this data. You can do that. Third one is that we also support data across Office application. So what I'm going to do here is that I can actually do a simple copy from here, switch over to my Word application, and I can do a paste. So these are creating user-defined functions within Word at this time. Yeah, and these are refreshable data. And you can actually select one of the item and you will know that where that data came in. You can also go back and do a visualize and go back to Excel. We capture the query behind the scenes. Next item I want to show here is that, we do support multiple grids on the same sheet. The first one part is coming from our sample application. The next one is coming from another application like that. So I can bring in data from different applications and I can do analysis with them. So for example, I can actually drag and drop without affecting the other one. It automatically gets adjusted. Next use case is that we can actually have a well-defined format that are suitable for data entry. So I'm going to select my planning application. These are predefined formats that users can you depend on. The administrators will create it, users can depend on, and you can actually open them. You can do analyze from there to do ad hoc analysis from there for further analysis.
Hey, Shaji, sorry to interrupt here. I want to make sure you have time to show the Mac add-in, just a quick time for just a few minutes.
Yeah, sure. We can also have just a second. We can also have the do this too. Define user-defined functions like I just get run, and this is the functionality what we are actually trying to get into added, and our first release went out in last June-July timeframe actually. So this is a web add-in that we captured here, and so very similar functionality. We are going to be using the panel to sign in. Then I'm going to go into one of the planning application, and this is a planning application for headcount planning. So I'm actually requesting a couple of positions open for sales manager, 2 types of sales manager, and different positions there. Now we can actually add additional detail to my manager saying that this will require board approval, for example, and I can post it. This get captured into our database. So we can actually change the formatting on Excel to show that some of these have notes added to them, so that the manager, the person who's approving, whenever they look at it, they can see that detail. You can also have sort of instructions for the planner to how to operate under this form, etc. They can actually have a lot of this detail are coming in as missing on this particular form. You can have a replacement parameter added to it, so that your view is you can view the data in a better way. It can go into analysis. You can pick and choose members from there. You can show different hierarchy and say that I want to add a sales manager, operations analyst, etc. And I want to analyze that. I want to add them. I want to see what are the positions open for them, head count, so that people can enter data into that. We do allow folks to do member selection. You can do different point of view to look at data for I want to see financial 16 versus 20, that sort of information. All these are added. You can see that on the top you have a primary command surface. Then you have remaining are implemented on the right-hand side panel using task pane. And drag and drop is not supported yet, so we manage that with operations like pivot and right click and pivot and controls like that way. We created a ribbon item to go into the detail or move to right, move left, that type of operation actually. Cascade is an operation you want to repeat that particular form for a bunch of combinations actually. So it will go ahead and create that many sheets with that data. Next is that some of this might require an approval process to be triggered. We call that as a business rule. So business rule is you have a form available. Now you might want to have additional functionality in there associated with saying that what kind of position is that, when do you want the start and end time frame for that employee, what is a job code, or no, what's a union code, etc., what kind of employee that is. So you have ways that you can provide that information. All this is coming back from the server, and for us it's a JSON and HTML is what coming back from the server. You can trigger it. This runs on the server, and these are going to get added to, like now it gets added to your system. Now the hiring manager can go and start looking for candidates.
This is really great, Shaji. Really appreciate you sharing this with us. I hate to cut you off. We're about at the top of the hour, so we need to wrap up here.
Sure.
But really appreciate you sharing this presentation with us. It's particularly insightful, I think, for folks building on the platform to hear about, why you chose to move forward with the web add-in when you had a really successful comment and already, some of the challenges that you hit along the way, and then what's been really helpful for you. So really appreciate you sharing that with us today. We'll be publishing.
Thanks,
all right,
Kim.
so yep, thank you, Shaji. Really appreciate it. So just a few notes to wrap up here. I know we're at the top of the hour. First of all, if you're interested in presenting like Shaji has today and others have in previous months, we'd love to hear from you. If you have feedback about the docs or anything with the OfficeAddins platform, feel free to reach out as well. You can use this AKAMS link to contact us. Some quick notes about developer resources. I'm not going to go through them here, but we'll be publishing this deck along with a video of the call to the OfficeDev blog within the next few days, as well as any questions that went unanswered today. I know we've done a pretty good job staying on top of the question and answer in the chat window today, but if you asked a question that wasn't answered, keep an eye out on the OfficeDev blog over the next few days. We'll be publishing a blog post that answer any unanswered questions. Likewise, if you submitted a question via the web form that we publish and it wasn't answered already, keep an eye out for that blog post because we'll answer your question there. Thanks everyone for joining us today. As always, the recording of this call will be published to the Office Developer YouTube channel very soon. Our next call is second Wednesday of next month, September 11th, and we hope to see you there. If you want to submit your questions ahead of time, feel free to use the AKAMS link to the form here, and definitely add the recurring invite to your calendar. Thanks everyone for joining. We look forward to seeing you next month.